Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we're digging into something pretty interesting. Can 3D animation really change the game for how businesses operate and grow?
Yeah, it's a big question. We've been looking at some material, including a really good piece by Winston Trim, and it suggests this is way more than just, fancy graphics.
Definitely. It feels like it's moving beyond just marketing fluff.
Exactly. And our goal here really is to figure out why. Why are smart companies jumping onto 3D animation? Is it just a trend, or is this like a fundamental shift?
Right. Think about the usual stuff businesses throw at us, flat ads, maybe a video that's just okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now contrast that. Imagine seeing a product almost jump out at you,
Yeah.
or doing a virtual walkthrough of a building, or maybe getting a complex idea explained visually so it just clicks.
Yeah.
We're going to explore some maybe surprising upsides, even some cost benefits that might make you rethink things. So let's start at the beginning. What is 3D animation, basically?
Okay, so put simply, it's about creating movement in a digital space that has depth 3 dimensions. Unlike 2D, which is flat, like a cartoon on paper.
Exactly. 3D adds that depth so things look more solid, more real, almost like you could touch them. And that realism, that interactivity, it just opens up possibilities 2D can't really match.
Okay, so it's not just looks, it's fundamentally different. How are businesses actually using it? What are the main ways?
Oh, it's incredibly broad, actually. Product demos are huge, letting you spin a product around online, see every angle like you're holding it.
Right.
Architectural walkthroughs, letting people see inside buildings before they're even built. That's another big one.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Then you've got medical and scientific stuff, visualizing complex things really clearly. And obviously advertising, branding, but also training simulations too,
Yeah.
especially for complicated or risky jobs.
It really makes the abstract feel concrete, doesn't it?
hmm
Okay, but how is it actually made? For those of us who aren't, tech experts,
Yeah.
can you break down the basic steps? Sure, yeah. It usually kicks off with modeling. Think of it like digital sculpting, creating the 3D shape on a computer, whether it's a car or, I don't know, a character.
Got it. Like building the base with form.
Exactly. Then comes texturing and lighting. Texturing is like painting that model, giving it surfaces, making it look like metal or wood or skin.
Okay.
And lighting is setting up virtual lights to create shadows, highlights,
hmm
makes it look real.
Right. Adds the realism.
Then rigging and animation. Rigging is kind of like adding a digital skeleton joints so the thing can move. And animation is, well, making it move over time.
Makes sense.
Almost there. The next big step is rendering. That's where the computer calculates everything and spits out the final images, the frames of the animation, like taking thousands of digital photos.
Okay.
And finally, post-production. That's just adding the finishing touches,
Mhm.
visual effects, sound, editing it all together.
That's a great overview. Thanks. It feels like even smaller companies are using this stuff now. Has it gotten cheaper or easier to do?
Oh, definitely. Software advancements have been huge. Tools like Blender, which is open source, and Maya, Cinema 4D, they've become incredibly powerful and, yeah, often more affordable. It's really opened the doors for a lot more businesses.
Right. Okay, so we know what it is, how it's made, it's more accessible. Let's get into the real practical stuff. Winston Trim's article points to some key areas, starting with product demos and prototypes. Why is 3D animation so good here?
Well, this is where it tackles some real headaches. Think about physical prototypes. They can be super expensive, take ages to make, and if you need changes, more cost, more time.
Yeah.
Plus, getting good photos from every angle, that's another whole process. 3D animation lets you show off a product in amazing detail before it even physically exists.
Totally. Trim brings up Apple, right? Those slick iPhone launches with the rotating 3D views we all see.
Exactly. Or car companies like Tesla, showing off all the features and configurations without needing a real car for every single option.
And it's not just about saving money on the prototype itself, is it?
Not at all. If you get feedback, need to tweak the design. Way easier, way cheaper to adjust a digital model than rebuild a physical one.
Good point.
And think about engagement. Letting customers play with a 3D model online, zoom in, spin it around. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, definitely more interactive.
Yeah.
Okay, what about another area, real estate and architecture? You mentioned walkthroughs. Why is that such a game changer?
This is a perfect case of bridging imagination and reality, looking at flat blueprints. It's hard for most people to really feel the space, right?
For sure.
3D walkthroughs give you that immersive feel. You can virtually wander through the property like it's already finished. It makes a huge difference in understanding what you're potentially buying.
Yeah, those virtual tours are becoming standard now. Trim notes that this doesn't just boost buyer confidence, which helps sales,
Right.
but it can also cut down on the need for physical showrooms, which saves time, saves money.
Absolutely, and interior designers use it too, right? Showing clients exactly how a room will look with certain furniture, colors, before anything's bought takes away a lot of the guesswork.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, thinking about marketing, getting noticed today is tough. How does 3D help with things like explainer videos or campaigns?
This is all about cutting through the noise. We're flooded with info, right? So
Mhm.
static ads, long text descriptions, they often just get scrolled past.
Mm,
3D animation can grab attention. It can take complicated ideas and make them simple, visual, engaging. Remember how companies like Dropbox or Slack used animation early on to explain what they did? It worked really well.
yeah, those were effective. And the stats Trim mentions are pretty striking, like animation holding attention 40% longer than just text. That's huge.
It is, and that translates. He also mentioned businesses using explainer videos seeing, what, a 20% increase in sales? That's a real impact.
Wow.
The visual dynamism just makes things easier to digest and remember, even if the topic is a bit dry.
Okay, and what about those more specialized fields, like medical or industrial training? You touched on that.
Yeah, this is where safety and cost savings really shine. Imagine training someone on complex, expensive machinery or a risky surgical procedure. The traditional way can be dangerous and very costly if things go wrong.
Right.
3D simulations offer a safe space to learn. Doctors can practice operations virtually, engineers can learn machine handling, all without real-world risk or wear and tear on equipment.
So fewer errors because they can practice safely, and lower costs because you don't need the physical setup for every trainee or risk-breaking things. That's powerful.
Definitely.
Now, Trim really argues that 3D animation often just flat out beats traditional media.
Yeah.
Let's break down some of those comparisons he makes. Cost, for instance.
Right, cost.
Yeah.
So yeah, creating the initial 3D assets might seem like a big investment up front, but the long-term view is different. You build these digital assets and you can reuse them. You avoid costs like location scouting, hiring actors again and again, reshooting if something changes. Those costs add up with traditional media.
That's a really good point. Reusability.
Yeah.
What about flexibility?
Yeah.
Making changes later on.
Huge difference there. Need to change the color of a product in your animation, adjust the camera angle, show a slightly different feature, relatively easy with a 3D model.
Okay.
Trying to change something significant in a finished video or photo, you're probably looking at an expensive reshoot, much less flexible.
Makes sense. And engagement. We talked about grabbing attention, but does it stick better too?
Generally, yes. Because it's often more immersive, more dynamic, people tend to remember 3D animated content better. It connects more effectively than just passively watching or reading something static.
Okay, and platform versatility. Can you use 3D stuff everywhere?
Pretty much, yeah. Those 3D assets are super flexible. You create them once, use them on your website, and social media ads, and presentations, even adapt them for AR or VR later on.
Right. Whereas a traditional TV ad might not translate well to a social media feed without edits.
Exactly. Different formats often require different versions with traditional media.
And lastly, the creative side. What can 3D do that maybe a camera can't?
Well, basically anything. That's the beauty of it. It's not tied to physical reality. You want to show something futuristic, something microscopic, something conceptual that doesn't exist yet. 3D can do that.
Whereas traditional filming is limited to, well, what you could actually point a camera at.
Precisely.
Trim gives some great real-world examples to back this up. The IKEA one with augmented reality that was clever.
Mm.
What was the story there?
Yeah, that was smart. IKEA tackled a common problem. People struggle to imagine how furniture will look in their actual room, right?
Totally.
So they used 3D models of their furniture and combined it with AR through a phone app. You could virtually place a 3D sofa or table in your living room and see how it fits, how it looks.
Okay, so you could visualize it properly.
Exactly. It kind of taps into that idea of mental ownership. Once you see it in your space, you feel more connected to it.
And the result? Trim said something like a 14% jump in online sales.
Yeah, a really significant lift. Shows how solving a customer pain point with this tech can directly boost the bottom line.
Wow. Okay, and then there was Nike, customizing shoes.
Right. Another great example of enhancing the customer experience. People wanted personalized sneakers, but just seeing options listed isn't the same. Nike introduced these 3D configurators online. You could pick colors, materials, whatever, and see your custom shoe update in real time, spin it around, look at it from all angles.
That sounds cool.
And apparently it led to a 30% increase in engagement. People spent more time interacting, designing, building that connection with the brand.
So these examples really show the tangible benefits. Now, if someone listening is thinking, okay, I'm interested, this sounds powerful, but they don't know where to start,
Yeah.
what are the first steps?
Good question. The absolute first thing is to pinpoint your need. What specific problem are you trying to solve? Is it about showing products better, making complex training safer, selling property faster?
Hmm.
You need a clear goal.
Okay, define the objective first. Makes sense. Then what?
Then, step two is probably finding the right partner. You'll likely need a 3D animation studio. Look for one that has experience in your specific industry, if possible.
Right, check their portfolio.
Definitely. Look at their past work. Ask for case studies relevant to what you need. Make sure their style and quality match your vision.
And you don't have to go all in immediately, right? Can you start small?
Absolutely, that's step three. Start small, then scale. You don't need a massive VR simulation on day one. Maybe start with a short explainer video for your website or some nice 3D renders of your key products.
Test the waters, see the results.
Exactly. See what kind of return you get comfortable with the process, and then you can think about bigger projects, maybe AR or VR if it makes sense based on that initial success.
Okay, so pulling it all together, leveraging 3D animations seems to offer a real edge.
Yeah.
As Trim points out, you can potentially lower costs, less
Mhm.
need for physical stuff, fewer reshoots.
Right. And you boost engagement, tell better stories, make complex things easier to grasp.
Which can lead to more sales through compelling product demos or walkthroughs.
Exactly. And in a world where everyone's fighting for eyeballs and attention spans are, well, short, 3D animation feels less like a luxury and more like something businesses really need to consider for growth.
It really does feel like a shift. This has been incredibly insightful. Thank you. It makes you think. Considering everything we've discussed, the potential it has, how could using 3D animation really lift your work, your projects, and connect with your audience in maybe completely new ways? What specific part of this discussion sparked an idea for you? Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.